Hello friends and welcome back. Today we'll be continuing my little mini series on Sitecore AI covering the new personalization capabilities. Today's presentation is a real treat, highlighting what I feel is one of the most impressive features of Sitecore AI to date. Prior, you had to combine the capabilities of multiple products into one. So Sitecore Search, Personalize, and XM Cloud were all required to essentially achieve the same thing that is now possible within Sitecore AI. Today, we are covering behavioral personalization. In XP, this meant pattern and profile cards, but in Sitecore AI, this represents affinities. So that being said, let's jump on in. All right, before we take a look at the live demonstration and go through some of those bits in the configuration, I just wanted to quickly do an overview of the different topics we're talking about today. So the first one is behavioral personalization. This is the kind of umbrella concept, whereas affinities is a kind of a way that we're going to achieve behavioral personalization in Sitecore AI. Behavioral personalization is essentially this concept of anonymous users will be able to navigate your website. They're kind of identifying signals as they do that. So they might be hitting specific pages. Those pages you can kind of attribute various information to those pages, so you can sort of sense what kind of content or information they're looking for. An example of this is maybe if you were a utility, somebody that's looking at ways to save or something like that might be more interested in finding ways to save some money on their energy bills. Search queries is the same sort of concept. What are they searching for on the site in your search bar or various other places? And then it's kind of this, you're collecting all these different signals, and then we're able to then target that user based on those signals. So what are affinities? Affinities is what a visitor is interested in. And it's a way, it's kind of a concept similar to attribution that I was mentioning before. Each page you can assign attributes to that page. You could say maybe you have a catalog of products. In this case, maybe an example would be cars. You could categorize these pages on the type of vehicle they are. So if you had a lineup of 10 to 15 cars, some of them are going to be SUVs, some of them are potentially going to be electric, some of these are going to be hybrid. So they're not necessarily a direct tie, but they could be like a categorization for your page. And so when somebody comes to your site, if they are interested in SUVs, they're going to maybe check out the Escalade. But you get the picture. Is essentially that you can classify your pages with information. You can then publish these changes, and then you can actually do personalization on top of this. And we're going to cover that kind of whole flow. So in the next section, we're going to set up all the pages with these affinities, and then we're going to set up the condition, which there's now a new one that's out of the box with Sitecore AI, where it allows you to map and then change content on the page based on that user's affinity. So if they've navigated to pages and they are interested in our use case that we're going to do later, headphones, then we're going to show maybe on the home page headphones instead of some other product, because we know that they're interested in that specific product. So with that said, let's go ahead and see this in action. All right, so we're going to go back and start looking at how we configure affinities inside Sitecore AI. So I'm going to start out on the strategy section of my site. I'll be using this demo instance for a lot of these videos that I'm doing. But to start configuring affinities, what we're going to do is we're going to navigate over to performance. And just to clarify, I've actually already gone ahead and configured a lot of this. I'm just going to walk through how I configured it. So we're going to go over to the settings area, and you'll see that there is this new option for affinities. We'll click that option. And then what you'll see here is all the sites that you have configured in this collection or in this environment. And then now what you can do is configure these to assign your affinities to them, or to pages, or whatever the case may be. So we're working on this video series item. We'll go into it. We didn't set any affinities for the homepage. Probably wouldn't make sense to in this case, because most people end up landing on the homepage. That's something to also keep in mind when you're configuring these. If everyone's going to end up on a page at some point or other, it doesn't really tell you much about that user because they've landed on that page. You want pages that are distinct, that tell you a little bit about that user's behavior based on the page they're viewing. So what I've configured here is we have these kind of top level categorizations. These, again, I didn't configure any affinities for these. But what I did is, to kind of show how this sort of works, is I've configured kind of like sub-level categories. I've configured kind of the top level categorization to this. So you could have more products underneath wired. You could have a bunch of like model numbers or whatever, however you represent it. And you could set those all to the product type of headphones in this case. So I set a product type product underscore type headphones. Same with wireless. I set the same here. You could do the same. I think I thought about doing this. So underneath this one, you have it set to speakers instead of headphones. Kind of get the gist of how this works. If you have products under all this, you could have something like a blue version of a headphone and a red version of a headphone, and then you could add affinities to that. So you can actually add more than one affinity to any given page. So you set the affinity name and you set the affinity value. And that's important to note because that will come into play here in a second when I go and configure personalization to use these affinities. So that's pretty much how you configure affinities. Let's go on and take a look at the page builder for our site. And we're going to take a look at creating a page level personalization for the home page. Bounce on over to my own that I'm using for this video series. And like I said, we're going to focus on this home page. And so what we want to do is create a page level personalization. So to do that, we can click on this little personalize. There is something called component level personalization. We're going to cover that in a future video. So for today, we're just focusing on the page level. So we're creating essentially an audience. And then for this audience, we're using our affinity. So we'll click on this audience and we'll go ahead and take a look at how this is configured. So we'll click on over to build. And what we've done is you can add a new out of the box condition. There is a bunch of the old ones that already existed with XM Cloud, and now with Sitecore AI, you have this top affinity option. So we added that to this this audience criteria, and then we've set this to headphones, and we set this is an optional field, but we set the let me just drop the condition in here just so you can see what it looks like without any values in it. It takes an affinity value and it takes an affinity name. So that's why we put in headphones here. So keep in mind the difference between affinity name and affinity value. So you actually put your values in first in this personalization rule or personalization condition, and then you can optionally provide your affinity name to that. We don't need this, so I'll go ahead and remove it, and we don't need to really save this because we haven't made any changes to it. So with that said, let's go ahead and go into the demo. All right, so here is our demo. This is the demo site. You're going to see this a lot if you're watching any of these videos that I'm producing on Sitecore AI. As you can see, we right now have this text banner that says listen loud. So the way this will work is I'll navigate over to these sections. I'm going to focus on let's do speakers first. So we'll go over to speakers. We navigate this page. I will admit some of these pages don't look very good because I didn't make many changes to it. So we'll go over the wireless. Remember, this wireless page has been tagged with the affinity name of product type and the affinity value of wireless, or affinity value of headphones, not wireless. And the same with this wired page. It's been set with the affinity name of product type and the affinity value of headphones. And so now we kind of, based on the fact that we've navigated to multiple pages, we've come to the conclusion that, or the system can come to the conclusion that your affinity is towards headphones because you've navigated to multiple headphones pages. So if we go back to the home page, we'll see I didn't add any specialized text here, but notice the text changed, and this reflects the component text that I had in our page level personalization page. So that concludes today's presentation. Hope you like this pretty cool feature. Hope you find a great use case for it for your own Sitecore AI project. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you.